Amara Ellis adjusted her oversized hoodie as she trudged through the school gates of Crestview High. The stares and whispers followed her like vultures circling prey. Her heavy frame and quiet demeanor made her an easy target. Most kids at Crestview didn't know much about her, and that's how she wanted it. To them, she was just the new girl who preferred staying in the background. What they didn't know, and what she worked tirelessly to keep hidden, was that she wasn't just anyone. She was the daughter of former U.S. President Joanna Ellis. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Also, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. But today, like every day, her reality felt far removed from the glamour and influence of her mother's presidency. Amara didn't fit the mold of what people expected from the child of a world leader. She wasn't polished, slim, or overly confident. Instead, she was a heavy-set, self-conscious teenager trying to escape the enormous shadow cast by her family name. Her father had passed away years ago, and her mother, though loving, had always been more focused on shaping a nation than raising a daughter. Amara slipped into the cafeteria and scanned the room. Most of the tables were already claimed by the usual cliques: the jocks, the cheerleaders, the band kids, and the outcasts. She wasn't sure where she fit in, but it wasn't here. Clutching her lunch tray, she made her way to an empty table at the far end of the room. She wasn't alone for long. "Hey, Ellis!" a voice called out, sharp and mocking. Amara froze. She hadn't told anyone her last name, let alone her connection to the former president. Her heart pounded as she turned to see who had addressed her. It was Connor Reeves, the self-proclaimed king of Crestview High. With his sharp jawline, designer sneakers, and cocky grin, he was the type of guy who thrived on tormenting anyone who didn't fit his definition of cool. His sidekicks, Mia and Zach, flanked him, their faces twisted in cruel amusement. "I hear you've got a famous mommy," Connor sneered, loud enough for the entire cafeteria to hear. "Guess that explains why you think you're too good to talk to anyone." Amara's cheeks flushed. "I don't," she began, but Connor cut her off. "Save it, princess," he said, stepping closer. "You think hiding under that hoodie makes you invisible? Newsflash, it doesn't. You're just another fat loser with a chip on her shoulder." Laughter rippled through the cafeteria. Amara felt her throat tighten as the weight of humiliation settled on her chest. She clutched her tray, her knuckles white, and willed herself not to cry. Mia chimed in. "Maybe she's hiding because she's scared people will find out who she really is. Must be hard living in your mom's shadow." "Huh." Zach added. "Yeah. Bet she can't even walk up a flight of stairs without a Secret Service agent holding her hand." The trio erupted into laughter, and Amara's resolve cracked. She turned on her heel and rushed out of the cafeteria, her tray forgotten on the table. The sound of their jeers followed her down the hallway. Amara slammed the bathroom door shut and locked herself in a stall. Tears streamed down her face as she leaned against the cold metal door. She hated them. She hated Crestview High. Most of all, she hated herself for letting them get to her. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a message from her best friend, Lila, who was still back in D.C. "How's the new school?" Lila had written. Amara stared at the message, debating whether to tell the truth. Finally, she typed back, "It sucks." The reply came almost instantly. "You want me to come visit? Or maybe you should come back. DC misses you." Amara smiled weakly. Lila had always been her anchor, the one person who never treated her differently because of her mother's status. But going back to DC wasn't an option. Her mom had insisted on moving to this small Midwestern town to escape the media frenzy that still lingered after her presidency. Joanna Ellis had wanted a fresh start for both of them, but Amara wasn't convinced it was working. Her phone buzzed again, But this time it wasn't Leah. It was a notification from the school's social media page. Curious, she opened it, and her stomach dropped. There, plastered across the screen, was a photo of her from the cafeteria with the caption, "Even the former president's daughter can't escape Crestview's food chain." The post was already racking up likes and comments. Amara felt her chest tighten. How had they found out? She hadn't told anyone, not even her teachers. Her mind raced as she tried to figure out who had spilled her secret, but the answer didn't matter. The damage was done. The next day, Amara debated skipping school altogether, but she knew that would only make things worse. So she pulled her hoodie over her head and trudged back to Crestview, bracing herself for another day of ridicule. The whispers started the moment she stepped onto campus. Everywhere she turned, people stared, snickered, or pointed. She kept her head down and moved quickly, hoping to make it to her locker without incident. But Connor and his crew were waiting for her. "Hey, superstar," Connor called out as she approached. "What's the matter? Didn't like your big debut?" Amara ignored him and kept walking, but Connor wasn't about to let her off that easily. He stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Oh, don't be like that," he said, his tone dripping with fake concern. "We're just trying to help you adjust. After all, it's not every day we get royalty at Crestview." Amara clenched her fists. "Leave me alone," she said, her voice trembling. Connor smirked. "Or what? You gonna call your mommy? Have her send in the Secret Service?" The crowd around them laughed, and Amara felt the familiar sting of humiliation. But this time something inside her snapped. "No," she said, her voice steady. "I don't need my mom to deal with you." The crowd fell silent, shocked by her defiance. Even Connor looked taken aback for a moment. But then his smirk returned, and he took a step closer. "Big talk for someone who can barely walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded," he said. That was it. Amara had reached her breaking point. What happened next would become the stuff of legend at Crestview High. Amara didn't back down. Instead, she stood her ground, meeting Connor's gaze with a calm intensity that sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. "You think you're untouchable?" she said, her voice low but firm. "But you have no idea who you're messing with." Connor laughed, but it sounded forced. "Oh yeah? What are you going to do?" Amara didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out her phone and typed a quick message. Within seconds, a black SUV pulled up to the curb, and two imposing men in suits stepped out. The crowd gasped as they recognized the unmistakable presence of Secret Service agents. Connor's smirk disappeared. The agents approached, their expressions stern. "Miss Ellis, is everything all right?" one of them asked. Amara nodded. "I'm fine, but I think these three need a lesson in respect." The agents turned their attention to Connor, Mia, and Zach, who suddenly looked much less confident. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the agents escorted the bullies away, leaving Amara standing tall in the middle of the courtyard. For the first time in her life, she felt powerful. Quick pause. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more incredible content. The news of what happened spread through Crestview High like wildfire. By lunchtime, everyone knew about the scene in the courtyard. The tables had turned, and for the first time, Connor Reeves wasn't the one calling the shots. Amara sat alone in the cafeteria, her tray untouched. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, and the constant stares and whispers made her uncomfortable. But she couldn't deny the small sense of satisfaction bubbling inside her. For once, the bullies weren't the ones in control. Just as she was about to leave, a timid voice broke through her thoughts. "Hey, is it okay if I sit here?" Amara looked up and saw a girl about her age with short curly hair and glasses. She was holding a lunch tray and looking nervously at the empty seat across from Amara. "Sure," Amara said, gesturing for her to sit. The girl set her tray down and offered a shy smile. "I'm Leah," she said. "That was pretty amazing, what you did out there." Amara shrugged. "I didn't really do anything." "Are you kidding?" Leah said, her eyes wide. "You stood up to Connor Reeves and had Secret Service agents haul him off. That's legendary." Amara couldn't help but smile. "I guess." Leah leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "But seriously, what's it like being the daughter of the former president?" Amara stiffened. "It's not as glamorous as people think," she said. "Most of the time, it's just exhausting." Leah nodded. "I can imagine. My dad's in local politics, and even that's a headache. I can't imagine what it's like on your level." For the first time, Amara felt like she'd found someone who understood, even just a little. Connor, Mia, and Zach weren't the type to take humiliation lying down. While they'd been shaken by their encounter with the Secret Service, it didn't take long for their anger to boil over into plans for revenge. "This isn't over," Connor said, pacing in Mia's living room. "Nobody makes a fool out of me." "But what can we do?" Mia asked, twirling a strand of her blonde hair. "She's got, the Secret Service on speed dial." Connor smirked. "We just have to be smarter about it. She thinks she's untouchable, but everyone has a weakness." Zach, who had been quiet up until now, spoke up. "What if we dig into her past? There's got to be something embarrassing we can use against her." Connor's smirk widened. "Exactly. Let's find out everything we can about Amara Ellis. If she wants a war, we'll give her one." The trio spent hours scouring social media, old news articles, and school records, looking for anything they could use to undermine Amara's newfound confidence. It didn't take long for them to find their first lead. A series of unflattering photos from a family vacation years ago, when Amara had been even heavier and visibly unhappy. "This is perfect," Mia said, holding up her phone. "We'll post these online and remind everyone that she's just a spoiled brat hiding behind her mommy's power." Connor nodded. "And that's just the beginning." Amara's phone buzzed incessantly the next morning. Groaning, she rolled over in bed and grabbed it off her nightstand. Her heart sank as she opened the notifications. Someone had posted a collage of photos from her past paired with cruel captions mocking her weight and appearance. "Power doesn't hide the truth," one post read. "President's daughter? More like president of the buffet." The comments were even worse. People she didn't even know had joined in, ridiculing her and calling her names. Amara felt the tears welling up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had spent her whole life trying to escape the shadow of her mother's presidency, and now it felt like she was being dragged back under it. She debated staying home from school, but a small voice inside her told her that running away wasn't the answer. She needed to face this head-on, even if it hurt. When she arrived at school, the hallways were filled with whispers and laughter. People glanced at her, then quickly looked away, as if afraid of being caught. Amara kept her head high and walked to her locker, ignoring the stares. Leah was waiting for her. "Hey," she said softly. "I saw the posts. Are you okay?" Amara shrugged. "I'll survive." Leah frowned. "You don't have to go through this alone, you know? There are people who have your back." Amara smiled faintly. "Thanks, Leah. That means a lot." But deep down, she wasn't sure if anyone could help her. Now that evening, Amara sat in her room scrolling through the hateful comments. She felt powerless, but she knew she couldn't let the bullies win. Taking a deep breath, she called her mother. "Amara." Joanna Ellis's voice was warm but tinged with concern. "Is everything all right?" "No, really," Amara admitted. "I need your help." Joanna listened patiently as Amara explained what had happened. When she finished, her mother's tone was firm. "You did the right thing by telling me. This isn't just bullying. It's harassment, and we're going to deal with it." The next morning, Joanna Ellis arrived at Crestview High unannounced. She walked into the principal's office with the commanding presence of someone who had once led the free world. "Good morning," she said, her tone polite but firm. "I'm here to discuss the harassment my daughter has been facing at your school." The principal, a nervous man named Mr. Higgins, stammered an apology. "Of course, Mrs. Ellis. We take bullying very seriously." "Good," Joanna said, "because if this isn't addressed immediately, I'll be taking it to the school board and the press by the end of the day." Connor, Mia, and Zach were called into the office and given the harshest punishments the school could enforce. But for Amara, it wasn't just about retribution. She wanted to use her experience to make a difference. Over the next few weeks, Amara worked with her mother and Leah to create an anti-bullying initiative at Crestview High. They held assemblies, started support groups, and encouraged students to speak out against harassment. Slowly but surely, the culture at Crestview began to change. For Amara, it wasn't just about standing up to the bullies. It was about finding her voice and realizing that she didn't have to live in anyone's shadow. She could be strong, confident, and unapologetically herself. And as for Connor, Mia, and Zach, they learned the hard way that some battles aren't worth fighting, especially when your opponent has the courage to fight back.